Burning it down, burning it down, burning it down at Tech Town. Burning it down, burning it down, burning it down at Tech Town.
All right, guys, welcome to Tech Town, episode 23. I'm Mr. Ellsberg.
I am Professor Danny Bauman.
That's right, and we're here to blow your minds with our 23rd episode today. We are going to be talking hardware.
Hardware, yeah. So I'm a software guy, but turns out there's real physical things out there.
Right, the integration of hard and soft, that's where you get the goo.
Exactly, that's where the goo comes from.
Yep.
So, we'll talk about computers, which means desktops, laptops, tablets, all sorts of different devices, but even devices you hadn't even thought were possible.
Awesome. This is what we're about today. Remember, as usual, Tech Town, we want to hear feedback from you. So if you make comments below on the YouTube page, we will try to integrate our answers to your questions in the broadcast.
Exactly. So, we want to hear from you about topics. Maybe you have something you want to learn about or you need to know how to solve. There's all sorts of ways where if you ever find yourself having to type a bunch of stuff or copy and paste or make this fit in with that, there's always ways to do it, and I always like finding those things. So.
Work smart, not hard.
Exactly.
Well, you can work hard too.
Well, both, right? Yes. Sure.
All right.
All right. So hardware. So so computer. What is a computer these days anyway? Back in my day, geezer days, yeah.
We are old at this point.
It's true.
In computer years.
It's true. And our computer years are like 20 computer years for everyone.
That's right.
Millennial year. All right. So we used to have these desktop computers, which had big monitors and keyboards. But these days, computers can be in anything. Computers can be in your refrigerator. They can be in your wristband. There's about 1 million of them in your car.
Right.
And so it's no longer really understandable what a computer is because it's kind of everything.
Yep.
So I'm going to break it down into 5 different categories of computers.
Okay.
And we'll talk about each one and why you would want one versus the other, kind of the pros and cons of each, the prices of each, and also there's this 5th category that is going to explode. It's called the Internet of Things. That's one term people have used for it. But it's basically once you know there's a computer and everything, how can we use that to do all sorts of big things?
That sounds like a teaser.
Exactly.
So yeah, you're going to want to stay tuned today to hear about that 5th thing.
Exactly.
All right.
The
so
Internet of
5 things. The 5 fingers.
5 fingers of computers. Let's start with number 1, us old folk computer, which is a desktop computer. Oh, well, okay.
One, desktop.
You're in charge of fingers. I'm in charge of technology.
All right.
All right. So we have desktops, which normally have a monitor, have a keyboard. They're these tower-looking things, or kind of in a cube or something, but they're pretty big, bulky things.
Stationary.
Stationary. You don't really move them around.
Right.
And there are companies that make them like Dell, Apple, and HP, and those ones are really the old school kind, but they have a lot of the important stuff that it takes to be a computer.
Right.
So I also want to describe what a computer kind of is so that all of these things fit into that category. So a computer, at its definition, has a few parts to it. It has a CPU.
Okay.
CPU is basically a processor,
Mm-hmm.
and a processor crunches numbers. It basically takes the code and says, what do I do with it? Do I add 1 to 2? Do I go to this website or that website? Which one should I do?
Right.
It has memory. Memory stores the code. It stores the things you downloaded. It stores the website that you need to look at. It's not even permanent memory necessarily. It's just any memory.
Okay.
It needs to have some sort of memory. Imagine yourself, if you had no memory at all, you'd just be like,
not a computer.
Not a computer.
Right.
As of now, we're pretty close to a computer.
That's good.
Power.
Power.
We don't yet know how to make computers work without power.
Okay.
So you got to have some power.
Right. Got it.
Those are kind of the main ones. There's a lot of other stuff. There's optional things. A lot of times you might want a screen. You might want to see what's going on. You might want a way to interact with it, like a mouse or a keyboard or something.
Yep.
Networking, to connect to the internet.
Yep.
There's a bunch of ways you can add memory, so you might want RAM and a hard drive. Hard drive is for longer term stuff. You have a big video or songs or something.
Yep.
Graphics, some people have graphics. So there's all sorts of this other stuff that starts adding in, but really it's about a processor, memory, power, and then which of these other little add-ons do you want?
Ooh, that's where we get into the excitement.
Exactly. So desktops, some of these things are kind of, you got to get them. So for example, the mouse, the keyboard, you kind of got to get it. It doesn't really come in built into the main thing.
Right.
Kind of got to get it.
Need the mouse.
But let's also think of the importance of this desktop. You know, we think it's kind of the old computer, the old way of doing things. We have all these new smart gadgets, whatever. But if you think back to about 30 years ago, it was unbelievable that people would have as many desktop computers, let alone all these other things. They didn't even think about these other computers very much.
Right.
So Microsoft, when it first had a mission statement, Bill Gates said that they wanted to put a computer on every desk in every home running Microsoft software.
Right.
And now that seems like kind of like, duh. Well, maybe it's not a desktop computer, but there's some sort of computer. Yeah. But at that time, it was crazy. Nobody had computers. Computers fit in giant rooms. Right. And so now that we have this computer on every desk, on every home, we're like past that goal almost. Right. You know, we're now onto this other stuff. So that desktop thing, remember, that was what we were trying to do. Right. Now we're way beyond that.
Right. Now it's a whole different environment that we're talking about now. We're beyond the desktop. So
So how about a laptop?
Ooh, a laptop.
So we moved from desk to lap.
Yeah, your lap is a desk.
Right, exactly. So in the future now we have desk laps.
Right.
Or the other way to look at it is that we made computers smaller into laptops.
Yep.
So that's category number 2.
In the next one you got your Palm lap.
Oh man. Oh, we'll get to the Palm lap.
Oh my gosh,
we're not there yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so laptops, sometimes called notebooks.
Okay.
And they're basically the things you know that are they have a screen, they have a keyboard built in, the mouse built in. Yep. And so that is kind of the next version, right? So we started taking these around. They're a little bit portable. Okay. They have a battery. Yep. They last a little while. And so a couple like pros and cons about that. So they're a little cheaper than desktops, a little more expensive than desktops, so it depends. Okay. The price, I would say, kind of goes both ways. That's not necessarily one that's why you'd buy one versus the other. Okay. The portable is pretty big.
That's nice.
I take my laptop a lot of places.
I take it everywhere.
I'm doing this with my laptop, and this is, at your school, so I wouldn't have been able to do this very easily with a desktop. It's true. But it's still pretty big, still pretty bulky. I write code on this laptop. I do some video editing and audio editing, and that kind of takes the screen and some of these things that you might need out of a laptop. So that's one of the reasons you might want to get a bigger laptop. Right. I want to take this time to talk about x86 versus ARM.
Ooh, wow. What are we talking here?
So this is getting a little crazy, but it'll make sense, I promise, and it's important.
Explain to the layman.
So far, we've been talking about desktops, laptops.
I understand those.
We've had that. Those run Windows or they run Mac OS. Okay. Right?
Operating systems.
Those run on a certain type of processor. Okay. For right now, we're calling it x86.
x86.
So don't worry about what that means. Just secret ninja term x86 is about those kinds of computers.
Got it.
That's the processor, that CPU we were talking
processor.
About. That is very different than your cell phone. Okay. Your cell phone or your tablet, those run on ARM, A-R-M.
ARM.
Right.
Okay.
Don't worry about what it means. Secret ninja term ARM processor.
All right.
Those run a different operating system. So those run like Android.
Right.
Or iOS, for the iPhone or the iPad.
Right.
Those two technologies are very different, and you can't really run it on the other hardware. Okay. So if you have Android, you can't run it on your PC.
Right. So that's why your
Mac.
Let's say your Instagram account looks different.
Yeah.
On your computer than it looks on your phone.
Or the fact that you had to go to a website or an app store, all this stuff then starts mattering because from the bottom up, it's got to be one or the other. Yep. Eventually, you can kind of make them look the same. So, you might get a web browser like Chrome or something on both of them. Got it. So it's the same, but really underlying, they're really different. Okay. Now, you can kind of forget everything I just said. All that means is these laptops and desktops have been built one way. Now this new stuff is built in a different way, and these new operating systems. Okay. So even though we're talking about hardware, software starts being important. Because maybe you like iPhones, right? Maybe you like some apps that are on the iPhone. You can't play those on my laptop. Okay. You can't. Right. I don't have that. I don't have that store. I don't have that operating system. I don't have any of that. Right. So one thing that comes up is the choices of software end up depending on which hardware you have. Ah. So maybe you want to get a computer or a desktop or a laptop, but you may not have access to all these apps. Right. So one con is these days, a lot of the things that are going on for this other world, which is ARM, ARM, or iPhones or Android. You can call a lot of different things. But you really, and sometimes now, which is interesting, they're trying to get back to one thing working everywhere. Right. So there's ways that now things are starting to work everywhere, but we're not there yet. Right. Okay. How about that? So you got ARM and you got x86. Yeah. If you want to impress your friends, talk about those.
Okay.
Okay. Now, another big thing that starts coming with portability is the internet, so Wi-Fi.
Right. Wi-Fi.
With Wi-Fi, yes, as it's called sometimes, by crazy people.
With glasses.
Yeah, exactly. You're allowed to do that. So Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is a good connection. It's in a lot of different like schools or coffee shops or at home. So that's pretty good for laptops, libraries, exactly. It doesn't work when you're just out in the middle of the road, usually.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll talk about cell phones and that kind of thing in a second. But it is getting more and more pervasive. It's getting everywhere.
Right.
So Wi-Fi is a nice thing to have, and a lot of laptops have those built in. Okay, moving on.
Okay.
Tablets.
Got it.
Tablets is actually one of the fastest growing technologies in history.
Okay.
So according to this website, and I have a link to it, it's kind of weird where it depends on what they mean, and that's very arguable. But bottom line is they're important.
Okay.
They're growing in popularity. People are really using them in different ways that they used their previous computer, but that matters more with our current lifestyle.
Right.
So it's kind of like bringing a lot of what people do with their phones into what they did with their laptops.
Okay.
And saying, hey, we didn't need all this other stuff originally. You know, you're used to maybe a desktop or a laptop where you have all these windows or things around there and you switch back and forth from this or that. Now, tablets and apps, it's more like I just want to write an email. I don't want to worry about antivirus programs or folder settings or anything. I just want to write an email.
Yep.
So tablets kind of really took up, especially with like seniors and the older generation, where they, you know, it kind of comes a little more naturally because you're only dealing with just this app. You don't have to deal with the control panel and all these things.
It's not about multitasking.
Multitasking.
You've got a task,
right,
and you want to complete it.
Exactly.
Right? You've got your bird, and you want to throw it at all of the blocks and knock them down.
Exactly. That's the only thing I want to do. I don't want to get distracted by any of these folders.
Right.
So we knew that tablets were going to be big. It just took a little while for them to start.
Right.
And one thing I think is funny is I have a link in the show notes to an interview with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, and it is from, I think, early 2000s when Bill Gates was saying the tablet is the next big thing.
Right.
Everybody's going to go for tablets. They're going to be, you know, easy to use, touchscreen. We're already working on it. Microsoft already had a lot of stuff in Windows, you know, specifically for tablets. And Steve Jobs is sitting there like, sure, whatever. I've got this, you know, iPod thing we're working on. And it turns out they were both right. iPod was really big, and that went on to be a whole thing. But Bill Gates was right. Tablets ended up being a big thing.
Right.
It just took Steve Jobs to make it a big thing. 10, 15 years later.
The Apple way.
Yeah, so they did it.
Pretty.
So it turns out now we've got Android, we've got iPad, we've got Windows RT, Windows 8 works on some tablets, and Linux. All of those are different operating systems that run on tablets. Okay. So the deal with tablets is they're similar to laptops, but without really the keyboard. That's usually what it means.
Right.
And usually a touchscreen.
Yeah.
Some tablets have keyboards, some laptops have touchscreens, but it's really trying to talk about the ones without the keyboard, kind of just one slate tablet thing.
Right. And speaking of tablets, and tying that we have here in Portland is, so I'm going to bring it up because we just made the playoffs.
Oh, since we did.
We made the playoffs.
Yes.
The Blazers are using tablets.
They sure are.
They are the first professional basketball team.
Really?
To use the tablets.
I didn't realize they were
on the
first.
sidelines.
Get it, Tech Town,
That's
Portland
right,
Town.
which is funny because Paul Allen owns the Blazers.
It's true.
And Paul Allen, Microsoft guy.
Exactly. So that's good. We got to have all that secret computer inside information.
You've got to win.
Because I've seen,
and you're going to win with the technology.
What you're talking about is not just using tablets to type emails.
Right.
It's that they're sitting on the courtside bench, reviewing video. Of what they just did.
Yeah, and you're not going to have a giant desktop
no,
sitting
let me
there
pull out my
on
phone.
the, let's bring it up. Oh, where is the Ethernet cable?
Yeah, exactly. Got to run that cable.
All right, yep, that's right.
No, that's a good point. There are just times where now tablets will fit into life where we had the computing power to do that before. We had all the, you know, the bits and pieces. It's just you got to put it in this form that people can use.
Yep.
So usually these ones are ARM processors, that ARM thing I was talking about.
Okay, got it.
So this will run things like Android and iOS.
Okay.
Windows gets interesting here. So you may look and you may find tablets that run Windows. What you'll need to do is see that it's Windows RT versus Windows 8.
Right.
That's a whole topic in itself. I would say just know that they're different, and it turns out that's what is important, this x86 versus ARM thing. And so A couple extra things that tablets start adding into the mix. They took a lot of inspiration from phones, and phones took a lot of inspiration from tablets.
Okay.
So a lot of these are kind of crossovers. But they added a little extra hardware to make it more powerful.
Okay.
So some things that tablets have that a laptop might not have are a camera built in. Sometimes GPS. That's a big one.
Ooh.
So it can know what coordinates you are in the world.
Yeah, like a GPS one.
For maps and things. Bluetooth. So that's for communication. Sometimes it's for audio communication. Sometimes it's for sending files.
Okay.
Sometimes for connecting to devices. An accelerometer and a gyroscope. So that's where if you move it, gravity, if you kind of like drop it or if you twist it, if you shake it, you can do different things. You may have seen some apps that incorporate that where you move it around.
That's right. Yeah. You got lots of those. You got you got the little driving ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah. You got the ones you pretend with a golf swing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Or ones that you can jam.
Oh, even the best ones. Yeah.
Okay.
So you start adding in all these things and these app stores that go with it. That's another part of the tablets and phones that make use of all that stuff, so people can make a bunch of apps. That's happening on the laptops and the desktops, but it's not quite as big a focus as the tablets and phones. So, and they can be pretty cheap. It's interesting. All these things can be pretty cheap, can be expensive. So I'll mention a couple review sites that you can go and look up which one you're thinking of buying. Okay. Because that's sometimes nice to be able to read other people's reviews. Couple cons about tablets. So things that it doesn't quite do right. Number one is laptops and desktops support a lot of different peripherals. Right. As peripherals, I mean like printers, keyboards, or mics,
I see where you're going.
Or hard drives, or scanners, or just things you plug in. USB things, or FireWire things, or monitors, or stuff with plugs. Tablets, on the other hand, don't really do that very well. They're new. They're new about that, and the iPad said, I don't want to do really much of any of that. Okay. So it doesn't really have any of that. Any USB ports, it has none of that. It's just the one connector, so sometimes people are making things for them now. Right. But they're very much starting over. It's nothing that you had really works with it. Right. Got it. So another one is another con is that they're kind of fragmented. So you'd think, okay, I want to buy a tablet. What do I do? What do I buy? Well, there's a lot of choices. There's a lot of going on. And so there's kind of like, even within Apple now, there's a few choices. There's a few different iPads and iPad minis and things. Windows now, there's quite a few. Oh, man. And then Android, there's there's Android things that are being built in people's basements for $5. Right. And versus things that Google makes for hundreds of dollars. So, man, it's hard to tell sometimes. Yeah, very fragmented. All right, moving on to the category of phones. Phones. Now we're into the palm. Palm tops. Okay, palm tops. So phones are very similar to tablets in a lot of the ways I was talking about. So they have these sensors like a GPS and an accelerometer. Right. They have the app stores. I also want to mention security. They're a little bit more secure than these laptops and desktops. Now there's arguments on both sides, but it's closed off, and that's actually more secure. So the fact that you can't install anything you want or run any code you want by default on these devices ends up being a little more secure.
That's why you end up hearing about jailbreaking the phones, right? And it's a big it's a thing. It's an unlocking. And so that's what you're talking about. You're talking about the difficulty in being able to just do what you want with the phone.
Right. And in one way that's frustrating because some people really want to do whatever the phone can do. On the other hand, it leads to a more secure environment. Right. So the fact that you can't do these things is actually a good thing on purpose, so that you're not going to have bad things installed on your phone and viruses. Right. So, and one thing I want to mention about the phone is it could be your future wallet. So the fact that it's this little electronic thing that has a lot of cool cryptography stuff and security in there, it can become your wallet in the future, and a lot of companies are trying to figure out how to do that. Right. So you can then, instead of you paying for things with cash or a credit card, you can maybe tap your phone to the thing. And so that's going to be happening in the future. A secret hidden category is the TV devices. So I won't spend too much time on this because this is a whole interesting, very young topic because TV is now connecting to the internet. Right. And that's changing things. So I just want to mention that you've got things like smart TVs, Xbox and PlayStation, Apple TV, Roku, Chromecast has one. Comcast has those cable boxes that connect your TV. So there's all sorts of ones that connect your TV, and the TV is an important place these days because people use their computers a lot, but they definitely use their TVs a lot. Right. and they're using them in new ways.
We gotta combine them.
That's what's happening.
You gotta bring them together. So you might
Exactly.
see like Apple TV is another one. We have Apple TV here at our school. We
Cool.
hook them up with projectors.
Exactly,
and then
right.
you can basically make your TV, a medium for your computer.
Exactly. So when you think about buying another computer, that's just another way of thinking of it, is buying something that hooks up to your TV.
Right.
So, and that's really good for the pros for that, is for watching, video and audio.
Right.
So you want to watch some YouTube or some Netflix, or maybe you want to listen to a song on your surround sound speakers or something like that. That's when the TV ends up being great.
Right.
Different categories of hardware for different uses.
That's right. Another one, a quick one, is also, and you might be mentioning this, but also cars.
Cars, yeah. So that's going to be my next category.
Oh, let's get into the Internet of Things.
Internet of Things. Okay, so
all right.
it's kind of cheating to call it a category because it's basically the everything else.
Right.
The point is, these days, like I say, computers are in everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're in your microwaves.
Yep.
So once those get connected to the internet, and once those kind of become smart, meaning they weren't just made as a microwave, they're made to understand that there are other things out there.
Right.
There's websites out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's services out there. There's databases out there. There's people out there.
Yep.
Once they start reporting that information in meaningful ways, then you get all sorts of new stuff. So you brought up the car. That's a good example. Now that the car is there, that has computers in it, not only are the computers controlling the brakes and the gas and the steering like they've done for 20 years, it's also now sending that information up to, let's say, Tesla. And Tesla, the car company, is now knowing how your car is running. Is it running smoothly?
Right.
Does it need an update?
Yep.
Is it interacting with your phone well? And so the idea is that not only are these things computers, now they're connected. Now they're talking to each other. The thing that's hard to describe about this is how many different versions of that there are.
Right.
There's that, like I say, in the microwave, but it's in everything. It's in your thermostat. It's in businesses. When they're running a business, they have a million things that you never even thought they needed a computer for, doing computers with. And so there's weather stations that use computers. You can figure out what the weather is and broadcast that. But what I think is the coolest is that we can start getting in on this.
Yes. So that's the thing, right? So if you're sitting there in your Millennium Falcon, and it says, as we are, mine's a Prius. And so if you're sitting there and it says, hey, your right front wheel might be a little low in air pressure. And here's how to add air pressure to your wheel.
On top of that, it may not say that through your car. It may say that through your phone.
Oh, or your watch.
And the point is, anything can come from any computer and go to any other computer and interact with each other.
Right.
So not only is this stuff going to get smarter, it's going to start talking to other ones and show up in different places.
I like that.
So really, the important stuff shows up where you want it to. So let me give you a couple good examples. So this is kind of abstract. One good example is Google Glass. Google Glass. You're wearing them right now.
Yeah. So this would be a version of Google Glass. This would be the fashion that I would choose.
Exactly.
If I gotta pick
the top
my
of the line.
Google Glass. Yeah.
So
something understated.
Exactly. So this is glasses that are getting a computer now.
Right.
So it's something you never thought would get a computer. It's the Internet of Things. There were glasses before, but they never had computers in them. Now they are.
Right.
Hey. Nest. Nest is a thermostat.
Yep.
You can get this new, it was a Kickstarter project, I believe, and then you can have a computer in your thermostat to connect to the internet and see what the weather's like, and set your temperature at your house just for the weather.
Yep. Hey, you need to put on a jacket today.
Exactly.
Well.
The one I want to talk about for just a second is the Raspberry Pi. So the Raspberry Pi is something that you can buy for $35, around $35, and it's a basic computer that you can make do anything.
Okay.
So it's kind of the basis of all of these other things that are happening. It's where you start. It's if you're Google and you want to make Google glasses, what do you start with? Okay. What computer do you start with? You have your glasses. What do you kind of hook up to it?
Yep.
You could hook up to desktop or a laptop. Those things are huge.
Yeah.
So maybe a tablet or a phone, that gets a little more reasonable, but those are expensive.
Tell me about this Pi.
This Pi, on the other hand, sounds like it's a delicious thing. It turns out it's a computer, not the real Pi.
Okay.
But the Raspberry Pi is a mini computer that you can program to do whatever you want.
Wow.
So if I have an example in here of 12 cool projects for the Raspberry Pi. So I'll highlight a couple of things you can do. Number one is you can make a set-top box.
Okay.
So that smart TV thing I was talking about, like Apple TV, you can make your own Apple TV.
Wow.
And all you do is you get this Raspberry Pi.
Yep.
People already wrote all the software to do this, and you just load it up, and it then, boom, is an Apple TV. You can watch Netflix. You plug it right into your TV. So that's one. Another great one is synced music and Christmas lights.
Ooh.
So if you want to set up your whole house with that Christmas lights display and get them all flashing to music that you're playing,
I like
this
that.
little computer you can just use to do that. You could do it to build a nest.
Zoo lights.
Oh yeah, nice. That's always fun.
Yeah.
Maybe they're using Raspberry Pis for zoo lights.
Yep.
You can make your own weather station.
Wow.
Digital picture frame. So the point is, all these things start with this mini computer, but that mini computer is very basic. So you add on only what you want.
Okay.
So instead of buying this super powerful, huge computer for super expensive,
right?
You just have this little computer. You can either write code yourself or get other people's code and attach maybe just the temperature sensor. You buy this little piece of hardware that's a thermometer that hooks up. It has USB ports. So you can just boop, temperature sensor, or whatever it is you may want, the glasses, the cameras, and you can build it yourself.
Dang, how about that?
So,
Raspberry Pi.
Pros and cons, these things are tiny, they're cheap, it's awesome that you can just have a real computer in just that little bit. It's new, it's exciting, people are writing all sorts of new stuff out there. Desktops have been around for a while, and people are writing new things, but a lot of the activity is going on with this.
Right.
Modular, you only have to really buy the pieces that you want. So instead of buying a sweet computer with sweet graphics cards, you buy just the part that does the temperature sensing and the internet part. And then it's way cheaper.
There you go.
Probably the parts that are too bad, it's still a little confusing. When you look for Raspberry Pi, it's going to seem pretty technical and weird and it's not very user-friendly yet. It is in certain ways, so I encourage you to try. Definitely try it out because it's more than you'd imagine. But it still sometimes can get confusing, so you've got to persist. And it doesn't do very much. It's not going to do the best video editing and the best, sweet video games, 3D video games.
Right. It does small tasks.
Small tasks.
Right, but you've got lots of small tasks that you do from your day-to-day life.
Exactly.
Which can have helped out.
Exactly.
So what do we got next?
All right. For today's music segment of the week. Music.
What we got for our music segment?
So, I decided I might let you in on a little of my music.
Oh, personal music.
So, I've been making some music in my day. I play guitar, I play some drums, I play some synths, keyboards.
I've seen it before.
Good, and I encourage everybody to come see us play when my pirate band plays in Seattle on May 10th, if you happen to be in Seattle.
Pirate band?
Yep, I'm in a pirate band. So, my website is dannybauman.googlepages.com. And I'll show you a quick look at it. Once I share the screen, that's right.
So it wasn't that hard for you to set this up, was it?
No, actually, Google Pages is a pretty easy site, and I have a way to upload videos to audio to Dropbox. So a lot of the audio is hosted on Dropbox.
Nice.
So the website is not the hard part to make. The music, on the other hand, this is like some serious stuff.
Right.
So I've got everything in there from.
You can also, by the way, upload it to Google Docs.
Oh yes,
and then link it to your Google Docs.
Oh yes, you can.
There you go.
And SoundCloud for that matter.
SoundCloud.
I mean, if anybody wants some extra tech credit, gold stars. You can think of how many ways could you make a music website for yourself.
That's right.
There's about 60 million. So yeah, check them out. I don't know. Some of them are, some ballads. We've got some metal. We've got some electronic music. So check them out. See what you think. Let me know if you like any of them or if you want to use them for any videos you make or anything. I'm down to let you use them.
That's right. Check out Danny's site.
Yeah, dannybauman.googlepages.com. I got the link in the show notes.
Boom. How about that?
All right. So, okay, now it's time for Mr. Ellsberg's
My Side of the Week! All right, we're going to keep things relevant. What's going on today? Well, let me show you what's going on today.
All right, I want to see this.
Here's what's going on today. Here, today, now, everywhere, together. Here is today, all right? I'm going to go ahead and tell you. So today is Wednesday 9th. Okay, great. That's great. Click on it. Yeah, let's go ahead and click on that. Oh, here's this month. All right, so we can go ahead and check this out. All right, here's April, and this is today. This is our little block of today.
Okay. We're that far through April, is that what it's saying?
That's how far we're through April. And now you can see how much of the year that we've gone through. This shows April, and this is the rest of April, and here's the rest of the months of the year. Let's go ahead and click on this again. Oh, now we're getting on this century. and now we've seen what we've gone so far in this century, and this is what we have left.
Okay.
And if we keep going down the wormhole, the millennium, the epic, the period, the era, the eon, the earth, the life, the oxidation, the fish. Okay, let's go back. All right, let's go back. Okay, that's a little bit of now what's happening.
Oh, there's media.
Oh, you better look out. Yeah, everything's volatile. Everything's happening.
Awesome.
This is today. So this is our website today.
Excellent. Yeah, check that out. It really just gives you a little perspective on where we are today in history.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of the cosmos.
Yes,
Cosmos plug.
Gotta watch Cosmos.
That's right.
All right. Weekly Cosmos plug. All right. So, and finally, we've got your security tip of the week.
Security tip.
Ninja
Flex. Ninja Flex.
Excellent. This week's security tip is actually pretty interesting because not often is the whole internet security under question like it is now. So, you may have even seen some emails if you signed up for some websites that have sent you an email saying something about OpenSSL or Heartbleed or Heartbeat or something like that has been hacked and things are bad. I want to explain really quickly what that means. So, internet security is really based on one protocol, let's call it. One way of doing internet security. There are lots of different ways. Other than that, there's lots of different ways inside of that, but let's just call it there's this one way to do it. And this one way to do it has different people trying to do it that way.
Okay.
You have some companies trying to do it that way. You have some open source people trying to do it that way.
Okay.
This one open source people trying to do it that way had a problem, had a bug, had an error.
Okay.
So, basically, if they are the ones making the website, if the people making a website, let's say, use their form of security of this stuff, you are up for possibly having all of your information stolen. Not only that, it's possible that nobody would know who stole it, and it's possible that if you don't change anything, they can keep stealing things.
Oh, so what do you do?
So first, I want to say it is kind of as bad as it sounds in certain ways. On the other hand, the world's not falling apart. It's okay. There's scary things that happen all the time, and there are ways that this will be fixed, and there are things you can do.
Okay.
So I would say more important is this website I have in the show notes. It's called lastpass.com/heartbleed. Okay. Heartbleed is kind of the name of this problem that happened in OpenSSL.
Okay.
And so what you can do is you can put in a website, and you can see whether that site got crushed by this problem.
Yeah, let's not.
So basically, is that site using this specific OpenSSL thing that had the problem? So check out if you have any sites that either you made or you worry about, maybe your bank's website or your email website, and you think maybe it was vulnerable to this attack, you can put that in there, and it'll tell you basically whether it's
did it get crushed.
Did it get crushed? Yeah, basically, internet security is kind of a scary topic because if something like this happens where the general thing that we base all of our security on has a problem, then there can be real big problems.
Yeah, dang.
So make sure security is right.
Yep.
Boom.
Get it right, get it tight, and make sure that you don't get crushed.
Yes.
That's the big one. All right, we want to out there to make sure you don't get crushed. We talked about a lot of big things today. We talked about different kinds of computers. What makes a computer a computer?
Oh, could be a million things.
Man, we talked about some make your own music website.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can take a look at mine, but also make your own. Let's see if you want to make your own website about your own jams.
That's right. That's right. And then we talked about today.
Oh yes. Click today. Click 2014.
Yep.
Click the universe.
Fish. I think it ends with fish.
Right.
And then finally, we don't want
security tip.
Yeah.
Things are running wild. Watch out for OpenSSL.
That's right. OpenSSL.
All right.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week for episode 24 of Tech Town. Leave your comments below in the notes and take care.
All right. See you guys.